Hello, this is Catherine from Accelerated Reader reading books for you. Today I will be reading Royal Air Force Day, Book 4 from the Henry and Kathleen series of children's books by Taryn Jahme. Before I begin reading, I would like to give a big thanks to the author for sending me this book to read on my channel. In the description below, I've included links where you may find and purchase this book. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Dad was walking out the front door of Henry and Kathleen's house. Henry and Kathleen lived in a place in London called Notting Hill. Notting Hill was a lovely and peaceful place near Hyde Park. "Dad, are you flying today?" asked Henry, munching on his breakfast, not thinking about how he looked talking with his mouth full of cereal. "Of course I am, children. Do you think I would be wearing a bright red suit for nothing?" They both laughed at him and were excited because during the afternoon they were going to see Dad fly his red Aerojet plane with his other 8 team members who also flew their jets. There were 9 of them in total, and sometimes a 10th jet plane would be on standby just in case there was an emergency and they needed an extra plane. Henry and Kathleen would get so excited watching Dad fly that they would jump up and down, hanging off Dad's arm, trying to wrestle him to the ground just for fun before he left for work. Every time they wrestled him, Dad would tickle them by pinning them down to the floor and shouting, "Last touch!" He would then run as fast as he could out the front door, with Henry and Kathleen running after him at full speed, sometimes knocking Mummy's precious plant pots over. Dad would jump into his car and lock all the doors quickly so he would not be caught by Kathleen and Henry. The game they played was always so funny. This time, though, Dad got caught and Henry and Kathleen jumped on Dad's back, trying to drag him down to the ground before he got to his car. He laughed at them both, pulled ugly faces at them, and pulled them off his shoulders. Dad told Henry and Kathleen that he would see them later at the air show, and how excited he was to be performing as a Royal Air Force RAF pilot for the Queen. This was a very special day for the Royal Air Force, as it was a mark of respect for all the people that died in the First and Second World Wars. Dad was going to put on the most magnificent display with amazing aerobatics moves, which he would be performing with the rest of his team. The Red Arrows were the most qualified pilots in the whole of Great Britain, with their special form of training and the way they could put on the most fantastic air show one had ever seen. They were famous for their red, white, and blue vapor trails, which they left behind them when doing their aerobatics through the skies, which they practiced almost every day. Dad was wearing a very special red suit called an anti-G suit. This was not just any ordinary suit. This suit had a place for a pipe to feed Dad oxygen because he would fly so fast and so high that he needed the pipe to push air into his lungs so that he could keep breathing, or he could easily black out, and that would be an extremely dangerous thing to happen in a jet plane. All of the Royal Air Force pilots wore anti-G suits. Off Dad drove in his big four-wheel drive, down the driveway and out of the gate to get ready for the children to watch his air show. Henry and Kathleen waved goodbye to him from the pavement, sticking out their tongues at him as he drove out of the gate. Dad just honked his horn, teasing them as he drove off. Mummy came down the stairs and called the children inside. Come and finish your breakfast, you two. Time is ticking on, and you will need to get ready to see Dad's air show, Mummy said in a particularly high-pitched voice. Henry and Kathleen hurried inside to sit down and finish their breakfast. Then they both ran upstairs, where they brushed and flossed to get rid of any food which was stuck in their teeth. They even used mouthwash to make sure their breath smelled great for the whole day. Of course, it is never nice having bad breath or unbrushed teeth. Ew! They both breathed into their hands to smell and check if their breath was okay. Kathleen chose a lovely bright red skirt for the show, which went down to her knees, and a blue cotton top to wear with a white silk scarf, a straw hat with long brown boots, along with her favorite bracelet as a nice accessory to add to the outfit. The beads on her bracelet were brightly colored. It was a birthday present she received from her auntie one year. Henry chose a baggy pair of beige trousers, a bright yellow button-up shirt, and brown loafer shoes. He groomed his hair well by brushing it and made sure his nails were nicely clipped short and certainly not dirty for such an exciting event. Kathleen, Henry called, here are the nail clippers. Make sure you cut your nails after scratching me with them this morning, laughing and joking with Dad. I know it was a mistake, but try not to do it again. Kathleen huffed at Henry's remark, but knew she had to listen to him this time, as Henry did not sound very happy about getting scratched by Kathleen's long fingernails. Wow, Mum said, looking very pretty in her lovely flowering red dress. I am so proud of you too. You always make such a great effort to look so well dressed. You both also take such great care of your hygiene as well. Well done. Mum smelt so good with the sweet-scented perfume Dad bought her for her Christmas present last year. It was not too strong smelling either. It was just right. Now, off we go. Our black cab is waiting outside to take us to Dad's airship. Henry and Kathleen held onto Mum's hand, and after locking the front door, they all climbed into the back of the taxi and drove slowly out of the electric gate, listening to the sound of the blinkers as the driver waited to cross the road. So, how are you all today? Asked the taxi driver in a very high-pitched voice. He was a short, bald man who could only just see over the steering wheel. He had a funny laugh, which made Henry and Kathleen laugh back at him. But out of respect, both tried not to laugh too much, so it would not come across as rude. They did their best to have perfect behavior when Mum was around. She was sometimes a little strict when it came to their manners. Mum answered for everyone this time. We are very well, thank you. And how are you today, sir? Said Mum pleasantly. Well, actually, today has been a very good day so far. Thank you kindly for asking, madam. I would very much like to let you know that because you are my 20th passengers in my taxi today. I have a very special journey I shall be taking you on before I deliver you to your desired destination," he said in a strange, excited squeak. He sounded as though he could hardly contain his excitement. Mum, Kathleen, and Henry all looked surprised. They caught the little man peering back at them from the rear-view mirror in the car, staring hard with very convincing eyes, giggling to himself, knowing what lay ahead. "Oh, what is it?" Henry and Kathleen started to get ever so excited about what the exciting journey would involve. The little man laughed his funny little laugh and said in his high voice, "Today is a fantastic day because there are many little children who would be so excited to do what you are about to do. And you are the lucky ones. Ha 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 ha." "Well, what are we about to do?" Mom asked most curiously. "You'll see. Let us just get past this big old red double-decker bus and go through the Blackwall Tunnel, which runs underneath the Thames River. Just before we come out the other side of the tunnel, there will be a moment where you won't see a thing, just a whooshing, flashing glare. All you will see is the brightest light flashing past your eyes. There will be a moment of absolute silence, where you won't even be able to hear a mouse squeak. You will then feel as though you are floating through the air, moving higher and higher into the sky. This will be the most free you will ever feel. And when you open your eyes again, it will be the most exciting journey of your life ahead of you. Now, are you ready? Just you all wait and see. Fasten your seatbelts, everyone. Hold on," the little man said loudly, his shaggy eyebrows wiggling at them through the rear-view mirror again. Past the big old red bus they went. Into the tunnel they drove, speeding along the white lines. The children laughed and smiled with delight, shutting their eyes tightly with excitement. The little man drove faster and faster and faster. He drove with his feet on the accelerator until, poof, there was a sudden silence the little man spoke about. The beautiful light was so brilliant and bright, with glimmering waves passing their faces. It felt like beams of light had grabbed hold of them and had lifted them high into another world. A world so different, a world so peaceful and safe. Kathleen and Mum could feel their feet lifting off the ground, their arms moving with little effort. Floating in silence, they all looked at each other, smiling and laughing. There was almost complete silence, though there was the very faint sound of their voices, as if they were coming from far away. Then, all of a sudden, bang! Out of the lightning beams they flew, up, up, up into the sky. The taxi flew higher and higher, far beyond the white fluffy clouds. Everyone looked down. Below them, all they could see was the beautiful sparkling city of London below their feet. They could see the winding river Thames running through it, dividing the city in two. They looked at each other and gasped. Oh my," said Mum. Henry and Kathleen laughed and looked out the window below. "Wow!" The children were all inspired by the beauty which lay far beneath the taxi on such a gloriously sunny and clear day like this. The little man shouted, "Here we go, everyone!" And he proceeded to put his foot down on the taxi's accelerator pedal to make it go faster. Vroom! Through the clouds they flew, down, down, down they shot like a bolt of lightning. Through the middle of London Eye they went. Up the side of the Shard they soared. Up, up, up into the sky they flew in huge, wonderful loops all around London, whilst they enjoyed the fun and the sightseeing London had to offer. Woohoo! Henry and Kathleen cheered and laughed until their stomachs hurt so much they could hardly breathe. They looked back and were amazed to see that the taxi driver had written a big smoky sign in the sky saying, "I love London." Of course, they loved London, Kathleen and Henry thought. It was most definitely their favorite city in the whole world. Fun music started playing out of the taxi speakers, and they all sang along to songs as they soared down to the ground, where Dad was about to do his aerobatics in his red Aerojet plane. Not long to go now, everyone. Hold tight. We're just about to land back on planet Earth, the taxi driver announced. Slowly, the black taxi descended to the ground upon a flat piece of grassy land, landing safely and gently behind a big, green, bushy tree. This tree was no ordinary tree. It was the fattest old oak tree trunk one had ever seen, which must have been thousands of years old. Luckily, nobody saw. Henry, Kathleen, and Mum were so excited after such a fun adventure through the skies. Now it was time to go and find all the people so they could watch Dad performing in his air show. They scurried along past the green bushes and trees, waving goodbye to the funny little taxi man with large eyebrows. They followed a white picket fence along a narrow pathway which led them to the hundreds of people waiting patiently to watch the show. Mum, Kathleen, and Henry had to fight through the crowds to get to the front row, where their seats were especially booked for them by Dad himself. From far away, you could see the Queen sitting high on her stand, waiting for the red arrows to start flying. For safety reasons, the red arrows never fly directly above the crowd. They have to fly further away. Loud cheers of joy and excitement came from people all around. Children were running and playing in the field nearby. Families and friends were sitting on picnic blankets, eating the most delicious snacks, all laid out over red and white checkered picnic blankets. Some were dancing around in circles, waiting for the red arrows to do their big grand opening. And loud music came from a procession as they marched through the crowds. They marched and marched, playing loud drums, trumpets, and other interesting musical instruments. This day was a mark of respect for all the heroes that fought in World War I and World War II. These wars had happened a very long time ago, and it certainly was a very special day, especially having the Queen involved in such a fantastic event. The Queen stood up to give her wonderful speech about the war days and how this very special day was for all the heroes who fought in World War I and World War II. She looked so elegant in her big straw hat, which had a beautiful white rose to one side of it. Her dress was pale blue, tailored below her knees, and she wore a cream jacket. How graceful and elegant she looked, giving her speech to the many people in front of her, just as the Queen had finished her speech and was about to sit down gracefully. The red arrows finally shot into the sky from nowhere. They flew with incredible speed past the crowds, up high in the bright blue sky with the force of air underneath their wings. The enormous sounds of heavy jets made the most exciting noises, cutting through the sky faster than the speed of light. Flying high, the red arrows were painted bright red with blue and white stripes on their tails. Mum pulled a white silk handkerchief from her handbag and waved it as high above her head as she could, as Dad flew past them at full speed. How overjoyed and proud Mum was! Henry and Kathleen were also excited and proud of Dad for doing his stunning aerobatic tricks. "Henry and Kathleen," Mum said in all her excitement, waving her scarf around. "If you both can't see very well, then do go over to the other side of the stands. You will be able to see better there rather than trying to look over all the adults' heads here." Some adults were rudely standing up in front of the rest of the crowd, which was a nuisance, as Henry and Kathleen just could not see Dad do as many tricks as they were hoping. Off they both walked through a narrow gap which led them into the other side of the crowds. As they stood there, they heard a whisper, "Psst! Hey, you two!" Henry and Kathleen looked around, recognizing the voice. "Oh, it's our taxi driver," said Henry. "Come over here, you two. I have another surprise for you." "Oh, what is it?" Kathleen asked. They were now getting very excited, as they knew that the taxi driver drove a very magical taxi. He did look a bit strange with his busy eyebrows, but of course it would be very rude to say so. "Well, you both know me by now. You know I'm safe and where I come from, so no need to worry, as your mum has met me already. I have also just seen her in the crowds, and she said it was fine for me to do something fun with you too. Come along with me. My taxi is waiting for us. It won't take long, and it will be a lot of fun." Kathleen and Henry said to the little man, "We are just going to double check with Mummy that this is okay, as she has always told us to check with her first before getting into any car alone." "Of course, you should do that," said the little man. "Off you go, and hurry back quickly if you can." Henry and Kathleen found Mum and asked her. She agreed and let them go. They both laughed with excitement back to the taxi, Henry pulling Kathleen's hand, following the funny little man. He opened the back door for them both to climb in. "There, you two, hop in the back. I shall take to the wheel. You must fasten your seatbelts. Not the ordinary ones, okay? Only the ones where there is a red button. Just click on those." Henry and Kathleen clicked on the red buttons next to their normal seatbelts. With lightning speed, the seatbelts shot past their faces and clipped themselves in place, pushing Henry and Kathleen back tightly into their seats. These were no ordinary seatbelts. They had extra tight straps and handles to hold, which kept them tightly locked in place and were very secure. Huffing and puffing after trying to keep up with the children, the bushy-eyed brown taximan peered through his rear-view mirror to check them. Good, they were okay. He then proceeded to press the red button on his seat. Just as he did that, his steering wheel turned inside out and rapidly changed into a super-speed racing car steering wheel. "Whoa," said Henry and Kathleen, rubbing their hands together with excitement. The taximan shouted, "Hold on, this is going to be the fastest ride of your lives. Here we go!" They shot forward at lightning speed high into the crystal clear blue sky. Bird droppings hit the front window with a splat, splat, splat. Ew! Henry and Kathleen laughed and laughed as they flew so fast past the trees, the birds fluttering away as fast as they could to avoid the taxi. What a clear day it was for a flight through the empty skies once they left all the flora and fauna behind them. Faster and faster they went. The red arrows flying above them did their loops, forming diamond shapes. The taxi started making strange thundering sounds, which scared Kathleen and Henry, and they found themselves gripping their seats and a little nervous as to what was about to happen. They looked out of their windows, and unbelievably, the taxi was growing wings, big wings, which looked like the wings of a giant bat. Look below us, Henry. The black taxi is growing bat wings. These are no ordinary wings, children. These are very powerful, extraordinary, super bazooka bat taxi wings. Wings so tough and strong they could fly through the harshest weather and at a speed you could never imagine. Up through the skies they flew, forming loops along with the red arrows, red, white, and blue vapor trails, which was the smoke coming out of their engines. They kept up with Dad's plane. Round and round in circles they went, and, most importantly, the patterns through the sky were showing off so many different tricks, wowing the crowd with loud cheers of joy and excitement, making hearts, doing huge rollbacks which formed enormous shapes in the sky. They flew right over the city, and people on the pavements looked up above them, amazed at how fast they were going, and the cause of the sound flying over their heads, flying at the speed of light. There they were, waving to Dad through the window. Of course, Dad was far too busy to be waving back at them. Mom looked up to see the red arrows. She could not believe her eyes, as above her were the children in the taxi, flying high up in the sky, and the taxi had grown wings. No one else could see the taxi. It was only for Mom to see, and the taxi driver made sure he was well hidden behind Dad's jet, so no one else saw. "Whee!" shouted the children. "This is the most fun I have had in all my years," the taxi driver said, as he did as many loops as he could over the crowds. Flying past all the red arrows, the taxi kept going. Off it flew down towards a flock of birds flying through the sky. The birds squawked in fright when they saw such a large object with bat wings flying past them at such tremendous speed. Some of the birds even tried to keep up with them, flapping their wings so hard that eventually they had to descend to the ground as they were too exhausted. The crowd just seemed to think it was a very large bird so high up in the sky. They took no notice of the flying black London taxi. Down, down, down the taxi went, swooping along the tops of the trees. Under the thicket, it landed, away from everyone who could see. The time came for the exciting journey to end. Mom ran from the crowds back to the children. "I saw you, children. How fun that must have been for you all." "Thank you so much," said Mom. "Hop into the back of the car, Mom," said the children with excited, high-pitched voices. And so she did. The wings of the taxi and the steering wheel quickly folded back into themselves and went back to how they used to be. Mom did not see a thing. What a magical taxi ride it was, one to never forget. Driving home safely, they all talked nonstop about the amazing journey they had through the skies. The taxi man wished them well with some wonderful goodbye handshakes once he managed to park in their driveway. The little man was staring at them with a big grin on his face. He said, See you on another Red Arrows Day, perhaps, everyone. With a cloud of dusty smoke, which had everyone coughing and trying to fluff the smoke away from their faces, the black taxi disappeared within seconds. Mum was waiting to open the gate for the bushy-eyebrowed little man, which of course was not necessary at all. When Dad got home, all the children could talk about was the magical black taxi. "Don't worry, dear," said Mum to Dad. "You know how overexcited children can get sometimes. They were very excited to see you performing your aerobatics in your jet plane." Kathleen and Henry jumped onto Dad's lap to say good night and thanked him for the most amazing day they had ever had. Dad could not quite understand why the black taxi strangely seemed so much more exciting than watching the red arrows. "Never mind, darling. It's a good thing our children have such creative imaginations. Imagine if they didn't. How uninteresting this world would be. Good night, you two monkeys. Sleep tight." Dad gave Henry and Kathleen the biggest teddy bear hugs ever. As they all squeezed each other tightly, a big sound came from Dad, which went, "Ooh." Dad released them from his arms and off they went upstairs to bed. "Good night, Dad," Henry and Kathleen said loudly, both of them still so excited about their big, exciting day. The end. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. In the description below, I've included links where you may find and purchase this book. Stay tuned next week for Book 5, The Raven Tea Party at the Tower of London.